All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is another B.T.T.B, which is an acronym for Back to the Basics. And that's been the spirit that's been on Elder Apostle Tahar to pretty much set this thing off like, it's like, you could say a series. And he set off the first one, but he's been doing videos like that anyways, back to the basics. And he just did one recently, and then Apostle Gabar did one. And then, I did a couple yesterday, and I believe Apostle Tara, in his last video, he said that the Elder Yashawamba did something on it. And he just did one, not sure if that was earlier today or last night, dealing with Daniel the 7th chapter. So what I want to do in this one is do a part 2 to Romans 11, because Romans 11 was a long chapter, and I just wanted to hit some points. I didn't really want to, just flowing in the spirit. Didn't want to just breeze through it. Try to go a little deeper into it. For the sake of those, brothers out there, sincere brothers and sincere sisters out there that are new to this, that are just starting to learn. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to go back because we left off around the 17th verse. So I'm going to go back to the 16th verse. We're going to hit some points on that, revisit a couple of words, actually one word, and then take it from there. All right, so let's get into it. This is the book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 16. All right, now this is after the Lord, through the mouth of the Apostle Paul, was telling these Israelite foreigners in the book, in Rome, that the natural branches, which were the ones that knew that they were Jews, knew that they were Israelites, were broken off, so that they can come into this thing, because there was a number of them that were a part of the elect, because they were Israelites calling themselves Greeks or whatever they were calling themselves, but they were also a part of the elect, so they had to be brought back into the fold. But before we go into it, people get, when they see the letters of Paul to the Romans, they automatically think of white people, Oh, see, he's talking about the white people. These are the Romans. They're white people. Well, when we deal with the Apostle Paul himself, right? The Apostle Paul himself called himself a Roman because he was born in Tarsus, right? Which Tarsus was a province of Rome. So he was born as an Israelite having Roman citizenship. Okay, so you could understand. So he had the privileges of a Roman, but he was an Israelite of a province that happened to belong to Rome at the time when he was born. So Acts 22 and 26, when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain. Okay, Acts 22:25. And as they bound him with thongs, not the thongs you're thinking about, get your mind out the gutter. That was, pretty much like handcuffs in the ancient world. Paul said unto a centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? Now, was the Apostle Paul actually a Roman? Well, the answer to that is no. Let's go to Romans 11 and 1. I say then, hath the Most High cast away his people? The Most High forbid, for I also am in what? Israelite. But the difference was that he had Roman citizenship. And this is what a lot of people get confused on. Of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. So he was an Israelite that was of the seed of Abraham and also of the tribe of Benjamin. And a lot of people get caught up on that word Roman because they automatically think of so-called white people. And they think that anyone that was in Rome or was on the land of Italy, they were all just white people. No, Rome America is like Rome. Rome had a lot of different ethnicities coming there from different walks of life, to do trade, to become Roman citizens, so on and so forth. And you had plenty of Israelites in the land of Rome. This is why the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to the Romans, because these were the Israelite foreigners that were in Rome that were called to this ministry of reconciliation. Acts 18:1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from where? Italy. All right, Rome is the capital of Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius, which was a Caesar at this time, had commanded all Jews, Israelites, to depart from Rome, because of this ministry, this doctrine, this truth that was being taught. There was a stir about that, a ruckus. So Claudius wasn't trying to have all of that disturbance. So he ran out all of the Jews, all of the Israelites out of that area, the ones that knew that they were Israelites. So you could understand the ones that were calling themselves Jews, that were going to the Sabbath service, that were going to Jerusalem, to keep the Passover, so on and so forth. So he got rid of them out of there, but you still had what? The Israelite foreigners there, and came unto them. All right, so that we got that cleared up. Going back to Romans 11 and 16. So when you see the word Romans, or the book of Romans, this is not a letter addressed to so-called white people or Edomites. It's a letter addressed to these Israelites that were in the land of Rome. That's why it says here, right, in Romans 1 and 7, to all those in Rome who are loved by the Most High and called to be saints. The saints are the Israelites. Okay, so you could understand. If you haven't watched the first part of this, you can watch the first part of this, and we touched on that, so you can get more clarity. Because if you don't know, if you didn't watch part 1, you're gonna be a little lost in part 2. All right, so Romans 11:16. For the first fruit be holy. What is the first fruit? The root of everything, which goes back to who? Judah. You had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi predominantly in the land of Israel at this time. They are the root. They were still, when you had the Israelites that started to follow the Greek customs, you still had some Israelites that held on to being Israelites. They didn't sell out like others did. So this is the root that was still there, the first fruits that was still there. All right, and when we deal with the first fruits, ultimately it's dealing with the elect, the first spirits ever created, but it's also dealing with the root of this the Israelites. Dealing with Judah, Benjamin, and Levi at this time, because that's who was predominantly in that land. Although you had a sprinkle of the others. Now let's deal with the first fruits as far as dealing with Judah. When we go to the book of 1 Chronicles 5 and 1, right, it says, now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but for as much as he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to his birthright. So he had the birthright. He technically was supposed to be number 1. But when he committed this act, the birthright was taken from him, was given unto the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel. And if you understand the history, on the division of the nation of Israel after King Solomon, right? Just bear with me 1 second. Right? If you understand that history, you know that after King Solomon went back to the spirit world, his son Rehoboam took over the throne. The nation of Israel was split into two. Rehoboam, son of King Solomon, whose mother was an Ammonite, by the way. A lot of these guys will call him a mamzer. He received Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Those were the tribes that were with him. Then you had Jeroboam, who was working for King Solomon, and eventually the Lord broke up the nation and gave him 10 tribes. All right, so the nation at that point was split into two, so you could understand. Then it goes on to say, so Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. The Manasseh were, which are the so-called Cubans, and Ephraim, which so-called Puerto Ricans. Manasseh was the firstborn, so he was supposed to get the birthright, but it was given to Joseph. You could read about that in the book of Genesis, when Jacob gave the greater portion of the blessing to Ephraim. So Ephraim became the head tribe of the northern kingdom. All right, and that's how they received the birthright, or the head position. But it says, and the genealogy is not to be reckoned after the birthright, for Judah prevailed above his brethren. So it was given to Judah because Judah was, officially the one that was supposed to be the ruler, because Judah is the head tribe. And this is why in Zechariah 12:7 it says, Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first. Why? Because they are the first fruits. Yahweh Shai himself is of the tribe of Judah. When you go to Hebrews, the 10th chapter, it says that our Lord sprang out of Judah. Or I'm sorry, Hebrews, the 7th chapter, where it says the Lord sprang out of Judah. Right? So Judah is the head tribe, so they had to be set up first. All right? Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis, all the way back to the beginning. Now, Genesis, the word Genesis, the English word Genesis, goes back to the Hebrew word Bara'ash Yath. Okay, Ba is in, Ra'ash is heading, and Bara'ash Yath, and the Yath makes it plural. So in the beginning, or in the headings. So this goes all the way back to the beginning of creation, the beginning of everything. So Genesis 49:8, Judah, the tribe of Judah, Yahweh, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. See, so Yahweh, or Judah, would be the head tribe. Thine hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Why? Because the Messiah would come out of the tribe of Judah. So they would be the head tribe, even though they were the fourth born. Okay? When you go back into the genealogy of the patriarchs, or the fathers of the 12 tribes. So going back to Zechariah 12:7, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. And this is why the Apostle Paul came back and said this in Romans 11:16, for if the first fruit be holy, right, Judah, then you have Benjamin, Levi, the lump is also holy, the ones that come out of that. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. So those tribes, beginning with Judah, were holy. And they were still there. They still knew that they were Israelites. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them. So why did you become a wild olive tree? Because you were uncultivated. And you followed the customs of the other nations, therefore making you strange. All right, making you defiled, unclean. Uncultivated is of land not used for growing crops, because the land is supposed to be used for growing crops. If it's rich in soils and mineral, or rich in minerals and nutrients. It says of a person not highly educated or socially adept. So when the Israelites, certain ones of them, went among these nations and learned their ways, they became uncultivated. Unlearned as far as what? The commonwealth of Israel, or their nationality, or their customs, laws, so on and so forth. That's how they became unclean. So you could understand, okay? So going back to Romans 11:17, and if some of the branches be broken off, because some of them didn't believe, and thou being a wild olive tree, you are uncultivated, you are wild, you are unclean, were grafted in among them. See, so being grafted in, if you understand the process of grafting, you would take a branch from one tree and cut into another tree of the same kind, and you would insert that branch into that other tree that is the same tree. They've similar trees, but one of the branches you wanted just to cut into this other tree, right? That once you insert it, the tree would automatically, it's almost like a wound. You have a wound, and your wound starts to, the blood starts to coagulate, and then it starts to heal. So then once it heals, that branch will be attached, and it would grow fruit of that particular tree. Okay, but it had to be of the same type. You couldn't take a tree of one type of fruit and try to graft it into a tree of another type of fruit. So you could understand. Hope you're following along. So when we look at the word grafted, right, which we did yesterday, but just as a recap, and kentrizo, right, means to cut into for the sake of inserting a what? Scion. So you will take a branch of one tree of the same type of fruit, cut a hole or wedge into it, the other tree, and then you would cut back that branch so that you could reveal the stuff that's inside of it. I don't know all the technical terms. And then you would insert that into the tree, and then that other tree would heal his wounds and glue, for lack of better words, that branch into the tree, and therefore that tree would grow fruit off of that. So now when we look up this word scion, right, let's go here, which, like I said, we did this yesterday, but this is just a recap. Descendant, child, especially a descendant of a wealthy, aristocratic, or influential family. It says a descendant, heir, or young member of a family, a shoot or twig of a plant used to form a graft. All right, so these Israelites or Gentiles, which were Israelite foreigners, were grafted back into the natural tree, their natural branches. So they were a wild branch that were grafted in to the natural branch because they were uncultivated. Okay? They were not taught the right way, so they had to be retaught again. And that's what the whole book of Romans, the 11th chapter, is. Bringing back the Israelite foreigners back into the fold. So it says back in Romans 11:17, if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, right? Because now you're back to your rightful mind. Boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. And now what we're going to do is we're going to revisit this in Jeremiah 11. We're going to read a couple of verses here just to give you, a little more clarity. It says the broken covenant. Jeremiah 11:1. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, hear the words of this covenant, and speak unto the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And say thou unto them, thus saith the Lord, power of Israel, cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant. So they would be what? Cursed if they didn't obey and do these things. You can go to Deuteronomy 28 and read about the curses, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt from the iron furnace, saying, obey my voice and do them. According to all which I command you, so shall you be my people, and I will be your power. Because if you don't do the things that I say, I'm going to cut you off, and you're not going to be my people. Hosea 1, matter of fact, we're going to go back to Jeremiah. This is another good one for Judah. Right here. Hosea 1:6. And she, meaning the harlot that the prophet Hosea, the Most High told him to go get, she bore him children. That's too high for some of you simps out there. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And the Most High said unto him, oh, wait a minute, where's the... Where's the main one? Okay. All right, here we go. Hosea 1 and 8. Now when she had weaned Leruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo Ami. Now Lo Ami is a Hebrew word. Well, actually it's written in the English, but it's a Hebrew word, La'ah Aim Yah. It's a compound word. La'ah means no or not. Aim means people, and the Yah at the end means my. So Lo Ami or La'ah Aim Yah, not my people. All right. So who was this being spoken to? The Israelites. Why? Because they were being fresh. You know, they were worshiping idols and doing all kind of abominable shit. So the Lord cast them out. For you are not my people, and I will not be your power. Then it says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, because you became a no people, there it shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living power. All right. It's because the Lord will bring you back. And how would the Lord bring you back? Let's go real quick to St. John 15 and 3. It says, now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. So it's the word that makes you clean. It's the word that heals you. And that's why the message of this gospel to the Israelite foreigners was so important, because it was their way back to the good graces of the Most High Yahweh. Ephesians 5:26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. So that's how they were cleaned up, by the word. Because prior to that, they were dirty by the customs and the actions that they took in worshiping the gods of the other nations. So they had to be brought back to the fold. So going back here to Jeremiah 11 and 15, says that I may perform the oath which I have sworn unto your fathers to give them the land flowing with milk and honey as it is this day. Then answered I and said, so be it, O Lord, Yahweh Bashem El Shai. Jump down to the 11th verse. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm just going to, in the interest of time, verse 15. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many? That's going into worshiping of these idols of the other nations. And the holy flesh is passed from thee. So if the holy flesh is passed from you, that means you become a what? A heathen. You know, uncircumcised. You become uncultivated. So you have to be retaught all over again. When thou doest evil, then thou rejoicest. The Lord called thy name a green olive tree. This is the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel is called a green olive tree. The other nations were never called any type of olive tree, whether natural or wild. Okay? Fair and of goodly fruit, because the Lord gave you the right, he gave you everything he gave us everything that we needed to govern ourselves, in righteousness. With the noise of a great tumult hath he kindled the fire upon it. Right, because the Lord jacked Israel up, and the branches of it are broken. That's why now the Israelite foreigners, after the branches were broken, the Israelite foreigners are able to be grafted in, because the natural branches were broken. And these wild branches, which were Israelites that were in a wild state of mind, are now being brought back in to be retaught, to be cultivated. For Yahweh of hosts that planted thee hath pronounced evil against thee for the evil of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah, which they have done against themselves, to provoke me to anger in offering incense unto Baal. And that's the sin that did a sin. So going back to Romans 11 and 19 now. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. Why? Because these are the natural branches. All right. And these Israelite foreigners that the Apostle Paul was speaking about or speaking to were also Judites and Benjaminites and Levites that were caught up in the fray of, their parents and their parents' parents and parents' all the way up until this day, following the customs of the Greeks. So you fell away. Okay? So now that you're being brought back in, don't boast against thee, because they were always here. They never left. For if the Most High spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of the Most High on them which fell, which were the ones that didn't believe of Israel, severity. Right? They got severed. But towards thee, which are the Israelite foreigners, goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou also shalt be cut off. And they also, these unbelieving branches that were cut off, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. See, so they're going to be grafted back in again, which shows you that this is all dealing with the nation of Israel. Because just like the wild olive tree was able to be grafted in, so the natural branches are able to be grafted back into the root of that tree. For the Most High is able to graft them in again. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? Right, so the Apostle Paul was making the point that, look, you fell off, but now through their unbelief, they got kicked out. Now you're brought into this. But the same way that the Lord had mercy on you to bring you into this truth, he could also bring those that fell away back into the truth again. It's very simple. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, because it's a mystery. The mystery of the Gentiles is that those Gentiles which were offered or given salvation are Israelites that were in a Gentile state of mind. Lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, to the natural branches, until the fullness of the Gentiles or the Israelite foreigners be come in. Because you had a number of Israelites out there that were following the customs of the Greeks and so on and so forth, that were a part of the elect that had to receive this message to be brought back into the fold. So once those Gentiles or Israelite foreigners were sealed with some of the natural branches, and so all Israel shall be saved. It's telling you here that these Gentiles are Israelites. But see what happens with these wacky-tacky Christians, they come and they'll do what's called circumlocution, which is to speak in circles. And when they speak in circles, they keep doing that over and over again until the person just gives in. Because they're so confused that they just, I'm just rather just agree with this person than to be so confused. But they still confused. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. It's letting you know that these Gentiles are Israelites. Because the Lord only gave the law, statutes, and commandments to Israel. So only Israel can commit iniquity as far as breaking the laws of the scriptures. Now Esau and other nations are going to pay for what they did to us, pretty much. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. And you have to understand what the word sin is. You can go to 1 John 3 and 4. It explains what sin is. As concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sake, but as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sake. For the gift and calling of the Most High are without repentance. For as ye in times past have not believed the Most High, and this is what led you astray to worshiping those different gods and idols, yet have now obtained mercy through their unbelief. Right. So there was room made for you, because you are a part of the elect. Some of you are part of the elect. It says, even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy. And that's the thing. Mercy rejoices over judgment. For the Most High hath concluded them all in unbelief, right? Both the ones that knew that they were Israelites, the natural branches, and the ones that didn't know that they were Israelites, the unnatural branches. That he might have mercy upon all. Why? Because all of the seed of the nation of Israel will eventually be saved. Let's go to Romans 4 and 16. It says, therefore it is a faith, that it might be by grace, to the end. What's the end game? The promise that was made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob might be what? Sure to all the seed of Israel, because that's the seed of the promise. Not one Israelite is going to be lost. All right, matter of fact, let's go to, I believe that's Amos 5, or is it Hosea 5? I believe it's Hosea. Let's go to Hosea. Is it Hosea 5? Yep. Hosea 5 and 3. I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hid from me. So the Lord knows everywhere where the Israelites are at. Not one Israelite is going to be lost. He knows all of them. All of them. Acts 15 and 18. Known unto the Most High are all his works from the beginning of the world. So he know anywhere where Israel is at, the Lord knows. That's what it said, all Israel shall be saved. Now let's go real quick to, now we go to Amos chapter 9 and verse 9. For lo, I, meaning the Most High Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. And you have to understand that in order to be able to get the mystery of the Gentiles. If you don't understand, that Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, you're not going to understand the mystery of why in the New Testament it speaks about the Gentiles being saved. Because Israel was scattered among these nations, so the Lord had to go back and get them. Like as corn is sifted in the sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. Why? Because the Lord is going to make sure that his promise that he made to Abraham is sure to all of the seed, every last one of them. Right? Now we go, how is the Lord doing the sifting? Through the word. Baruch 4 and 36. O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east. That's over there in the land of Israel. And behold thy joy that cometh unto thee from the Father, the power. Lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. Right, because we were kicked out of that land. They come gathered together from the east to the west. We're over here in the western hemisphere. By the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. Why? Because now we are back into the good graces of Yahweh through Yahushai. All right, so that's what the Apostle Paul is speaking about here. Romans 11:32. For the Most High concluded them all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all. And then it goes on to say, oh, the depths of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of the Most High, how unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. Because the Most High, as powerful as the Most High is and as angry as the Most High gets, he still has, he's such a great power with such great power, and he still, can have mercy, because he understands that we're just but flesh. For who hath known the mind of the Lord, or who hath been his counselor, or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again? For of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. So be true. Right, so that's how the Israelite foreigners, which were being called Gentiles or heathens or whatever the case may be, uncircumcised by the Jews, are going to be grafted back into this truth. Why? Because you have some of them that are a part of the elect, and the whole what's the word I'm looking for? The whole, for lack of better words, the whole pie can't be completed, without all of those ingredients. All right, the ones that knew that they were Jews and the ones that didn't know that they were Jews. All right, they were being called Gentiles. Now, what's heavy about this chapter here is that today, everyone that was here in America didn't know that they were Israelites, So pretty much we were all like Gentiles in America. And that's what makes it so heavy, because the faith that was granted, or the grace that was granted to those Israelite foreigners that didn't believe, to be brought back into the fold extends all the way to us today, because eventually we would all fall. You see, we would all be considered Gentiles or uncircumcised or heathens. So now the Lord is having mercy on us again through the same ministry that began 2,000 years ago. How about that? So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say Shalom, I pray that this lesson was edifying. Shalom.